And with me is also Nancy Stipkovich, who is your first person to be in touch with if you have any questions about studying with us, specifically practical questions, right? I think I can answer a lot of the questions about the program, but Nancy knows a lot more about actually coming to the Netherlands, being in Den Bosch, things like that, everything that is needed for that, and the whole procedure to actually apply to our master's program. Um, if you have any questions, I see one more person coming in right now. If you have any questions, then yeah, please just drop them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them as quickly as possible, but certainly at the end. And it's good to say that you're being recorded because we'd like to send you all of this, just so you know that you're being recorded. Okay, so my name is Maarten Gageldonk. I'm the head of the Masters, what we call the pathway leader for the Masters of Animation. We're a small team, but I'm leading this small team at the moment, and I'll tell you a little bit about what our Masters program looks like. Well, a little bit of what we're going to do. So I'll say a few things about what our program looks like. I'll briefly tell you a bit about how this is embedded in a larger framework of other master's programs. Then I'll talk a little bit about our ambitions with the program. We have a really cool promo film that we got only yesterday, actually delivered from the editor. So we're going to show you that as well. So you get a bit, it's a good way, I think, of getting an idea of what our students make, because I think it's very representative of the diversity of the graduation projects. Then I'll talk a bit about the curriculum, how actually is the program structured, talk about the team, who will actually teach you. We'll talk a little bit about community, right? Who will your fellow students be? I'll say a little bit about workshops and the general structure of the program. Talk a bit about partners. We work a lot with industry partners in the Netherlands and abroad, so it's good to say a little bit about that. And then actually I'm going to hand over a little bit to Nancy towards the end, because she will say a little bit about Den Bosch. Well, some of you are Dutch and you will know Den Bosch a little bit, but if you're not Dutch, it's good to say something about the city, where is it located, right? And how do you navigate the Netherlands? And she will also say something about the application process, right? How do you, if you're interested, how do you actually apply for our masters? So we're a 1 year, 12-month program in animation in the Netherlands, and we're fully English language. We're the only English language Masters of Animation in the Netherlands. There's a whole range of bachelor programs, as some of you might know if you're from the Netherlands. Some animation and illustration, some only animation. But we're the only Masters program. And it's always good to say we're 12 months, right? Which means that you would start with us in September, and you would really deliver your final work at the very end of August, and then have a graduation ceremony at the beginning of September, right? So you really need 12 months. We're a 1 year master. And I can show you a little bit also in context, right? So there are different professional masters that Avans, the school that we are in, has, and most of them, actually all of them, with the exception of us, are 2 years, which makes them, if you're really interested in that, 120 European credits. And I'm going to let one more person in. So there's also situated design, ecology, futures, visual arts, and post-contemporary practice, and health by design. Health by design is a very new one. We're the only one that's 12 months, and really 12 months. So there's not really much of a summer break if you participate in our program, because you'll be working on your film. The idea behind that is that we also really like to be able to attract people from a bit further away in the world. And yeah, if you have to decide to come to the Netherlands for 12 months to study, then this is a bit more affordable and maybe sometimes also manageable in your lives than coming for 24 months, right? So that was the choice. It's really a 12-month sort of pressure cooker in which you will learn a lot and also produce a lot, right? So 12 months, and really from September up to the end of August. A little bit of background. These are some stills from films that our students made in recent years. Some a bit older, some a bit younger. You can also see the different styles of animation, types of animation. Some stop motion here, and there's some 3D. Right, the third one from the left is 3D. The one on the right is also 3D. And there's some 2D. The second one. So the idea behind our program is that we are a industry oriented master's program, which means that uh, if you come and join our program, what you could get out of your year of studying with us is finding your place in the animation industry. And that's very broad, of course, right? So some people will say, oh, I want to make films myself, right? I want to make short films, or I want to work online and put things on there and see if I can make money out of that. And some people will say, oh, I really want to work in a studio, or I want to start a small studio. So there are different possibilities. And in a sense, we can cater to all. We're mostly interested in seeing you use that 1 year to really develop yourself, to make a lot of connections in the industry, right? You'll be visiting a lot of events, you'll be meeting a lot of people, and in doing so, you'll be forging all sorts of connections that will help you later on, actually, after you graduate. In that sense, it's really a program that makes the connection to industry. I know from some other both bachelor and master's programs in the Netherlands and abroad that they're more art oriented, right? In the sense that they teach you to be an artist insofar as you can teach anyone to be an artist, but they help you to become a better artist, maybe. But then the question often arises once you're done with your bachelor or your master's, so now what? Right? How do I actually get funded? How do I pay my rent? How do I get commissions? How do I work for people? How do I get my work seen? Well, that's something that's really an element that's very much there in our program. These are all things that return throughout the year. In that sense, it's also sometimes this is a question that students ask, or potential students ask, does it have to be 2D? Does it have to be 3D? Do I have to work in a particular style? Does it have to be a short film? Could I also make a game or VR or a video installation? Or all of this is possible. Right. And for some things, you might have to work a little bit harder, right? Like VR there's of course some technical elements there that are not so easy to master, but it's all possible. And people have made successful projects in the previous years that have also screened at festivals and have been shown around the world. It's mostly asking yourself what you want to achieve, right? What your goal is with our studies. We use a sort of fancy word for that, and that's what we say our studies are self-directed, which means that the ambition should come from you, right? We're not a traditional bachelor program where we say Monday at 10 o'clock, you'll have 1 hour of 2D, and then at 11 o'clock, you'll have 1 hour of 3D or some storytelling. We have very few traditional classes. We mostly help you with your project, but I'll talk a bit about that later. So what I'm first going to do now is show you this amazing promo that we had made. It's only a minute and a half, so I'm going to play it. It might be loud because it's intended to be loud. So this is all graduation work that you're seeing. Okay, on a little bit. So what does a year look like? We think in 2 semesters. A semester is a half year, and the first one is basically from September until December, and then the second one starts in February with a little break in between, and runs up to the very end of the summer. So what do we do? Basically, you're working on your film throughout the year, but in steps. The first unit, which is the first, say, 7 weeks or something like that, we focus on world building. Right. If you start thinking about a project, it's really important to really think about what does the world look like that your film will be situated in. What are the rules of your world? What's the visual style of your world? What do the characters in your world look like? Right. So what you're supposed to deliver at the very end of those first 7 weeks is a first little outline of what will become a film. Right, you don't need to necessarily have that much. You don't even have to have that much animation yet, but a little bit of an idea of where you're going to be taking this. Then the second unit, which is say end of October until Christmas, called animation handwriting. This is where we really focus on style. Right. If you want your film to really pop, if you want your film to be really visible out there, you will need to develop some sort of style, and also a style that you've really thought about, right? One of my other jobs is being the head of program for Kaboom Animation Festival in Amsterdam, and I see, I don't know, 2,500, 3,000 animated films a year, mostly short. And the ones that I remember are the ones that tell an interesting story and do so in an interesting visual style, and where the two connect well, right? Where it also makes sense, the choices that you've made. And one thing that we'll talk about a lot is also defending the choices that you've made. Why does this look this way, right? And why not in a different way, right? So this is something we want you to really learn to make conscious decisions in this, and not just go with feeling, but also decide why it's wise. And maybe also sometimes make smart decisions, right? Do you need to animate everything? Is that really essential? If do you have enough time to do so? Then by the end of that first unit, what you deliver is usually a film of about 1 minute, which you present in January. And then actually two things can happen. Either people are sometimes done with that 1 minute. They say, okay, so I made this film, which is 60 or 70 or 80 seconds usually, and this is it. I'm done with experimenting with this. I'm going to continue with another idea in the second semester, and I'm going to be developing another idea for my graduation film. And sometimes people say, oh, well, I made 1.5 minutes, but I think I can really expand this. And I think this can be a much better film if it's much longer. I saw this as part of a longer project. And then they continue with this 1 minute, and they expand it into their graduation film. Then in unit 3, this is actually exactly where we are now in the program. We started with this today. We break everything up. Then you stop thinking about your own project for a bit. And we do something that we call Project Soho. And I think it's the part of the year that students tend to remember best later on. What we do in Project Soho is that we form a number of small studios, right? 4 or 5 students, right? This year we have 4 studios. Sometimes we've had 5. It depends a bit on how big the group is. And you get a couple of days to think of a name for your studio, to set up, create a logo or a house style, to create a show reel and a portfolio, and also think about the roles in your studio, right? Who's going to be the producer? How will you divide work, right? Are you willing to work off hours, right? In the night, maybe, or maybe not? What are the agreements? So this is what we call a studio agreement. You'll make this together so that you all know where you stand. And then say after a week and a half, so for our current students, let's say towards the end of next week, real clients will start contacting you. Right, and we have to contact with the clients, right? And you get assignments for actual real clients. That might be animation studios in the Netherlands or beyond. It might also be organizations that need something animated. So festivals that might need a trailer, or an NGO that might need some sort of public awareness campaign. It's deliberately very diverse. From quite big, right? We work with big studios like Submarine, and we work with Nexus and some of these really big ones in the Netherlands and abroad. But we also deliberately work with small cultural organizations because it's good to learn to work for on different budgets. And basically, everything is real. You pitch for them, they will give you feedback. You will decide on a budget, right? How much is this going to cost in fictional money? And you produce the work. The work is usually also actually used by the companies, right? So you give them the right to use it, crediting you, of course. And basically everything is real except that you don't get paid in the end, because it's, of course, an educational environment. And I think students learn a lot from this, right? You learn a lot about collaboration. You learn a lot about working under stress, which is very good. And I think you make a lot of useful contacts in the industry. And in the past, sometimes people have continued to work for clients, and they've continued to work in the same studio settings after they graduated. It's usually quite useful, right? So basically, it's kind of simulation of what real life is like after you graduate. Then in Unit 4, you pick up the pre-production of production for your final film. Which means that before the summer, you present us a idea of what your final film will look like, what the look is, how long it will be. You present a planning for how you're going to be doing this in the summer months, and you also present us a little bit of animation, at least, that shows us what the film will look like when it's finished. We usually say at least animate one shot fully, so we get a good idea, and the rest can still be animatic. And then during the summer, you finish the film, right? And you will deliver it at the end of August, right? Which is when the final evaluation is. And after that, there will be a graduation show in September. So that's what the program looks like. And yeah, this is a bit the same. Some things are a bit the same. The only thing that's kind of interesting to mention here is that we've mentioned these 2 seconds of animation here, or 1 second of animation. I think that's an interesting thing that we do as well. Basically, from week 1, we will, even if you don't know anything about your own project yet, we will ask you to start animating. So what we will very often do is we will say, okay, so for next week, animate 1 or animate 2 seconds of animation, and we will give you a theme. And very often we will also give you a list of colors to use so that everything is nice and consistent. And we'll edit them all together. And at the very end, we will all discuss them right after a week once you've handed them in. I think we do this for a number of reasons. One, it forces you to animate. So if you're a person who doesn't have a tremendous amount of experience in animation, you have to animate. You can't wait. It's a kind of lab. It allows you to just experiment, right? Maybe with things that you'll never do again. But it's a way of kind of like just trying things out, and it gives you stuff for your portfolio, right? This is all stuff you can use later on and that you can show. Other thing to mention is the course professional practice that runs for most of the year. It runs parallel to almost everything that I've mentioned so far. This is the only real course that we do, in the sense that you really gather at one moment in the week with an instructor and also do assignments. This is with Annies van Liemt, who is quite a successful, actually very successful producer in the Netherlands, has worked for a lot of big companies. And what she will do is she will teach you all of the professional parts of being an animator, right? So you'll get classes in pitching, you'll get classes in writing a decent synopsis for your film. It's a lot about writing, etc. as well. You'll simulate a job interview. You will learn how to approach a company yourself if they haven't approached you. How do you cold call someone or just let them know that you're interested? How do you network? And lastly, that course is really intended for you to figure out what your identity is as an animator. Right, so where do you want to stand in the business after you study? That course really helps you with that. Um, which brings us a little bit to what we call a teaching and learning framework. That sounds a bit fancy, but it's basically how we think about our teaching and how we want you to learn. So, as I said, the course is very much self-directed, right? And it says in the middle also. So basically what you'll be doing throughout the year is also self-directed research. Um, and it's good to say that when we say research, we don't mean academic research. We mean research that helps you to create your film. Right? So it's practice-oriented research, but if you want your film to be good, you will have to really research the look of your film, the content of your film, the theme of your film, etc. And for us, all of these things are connected, right? So positioning and research is something that you will deliver materials for at certain moments, but that's connected also to design and storytelling. What does your film look like and what is it trying to tell? To professional practice. Who are you in the industry? And in the end, also to what we call pre-production, where you think about making the film and plan it, and production actually making the film. The next schedule is not only very pink, but also very maybe confusing. But if you're very interested in this, this is exactly how the ECTS, the European credits that you're getting for the different parts of the studies, are spread over the year. One thing that's maybe interesting to mention is that it mentions formative and summative assessments, right? An assessment is when we sort of test you. Every unit is an assessment, but 3 of them are what we call formative, which means that that's actually only a feedback moment. You can't fail that, right? If we give you really feedback that says that maybe things are not going the right direction, it's good, of course, to do something with that, but it's up to you. In the end, you're the captain of your ship, your film. But it's only a feedback moment. After the second period, when you hand in the 1 minute, and of course, at the very end of the year, we have summative assessments. Here, you actually get a grade and you need to pass. Right, so you need to finish the research and also the production and the design and the storytelling components with a passing grade to be able to continue. This is for us also really a kind of stoplight sort of moment, traffic light kind of moment to really say, oh, do we have faith in the fact that this is going to work? And of course, towards the end, at the very end of the year, it evaluates what you've made. It's good to say that the presentations for these assessments are usually quite sort of open and not so tense, right? We mostly want you to learn. We're not a group of angry teachers that's just going to tear your film apart. That's not the point. We want you to learn and we want to understand why you made certain choices. And what mostly you'll be doing is next to also showing, of course, your work, you'll be telling us how you got to make this work. And you'll also be telling us that certain things went really well and you're very happy with them, and that some things didn't go as well as you wanted to, and what you want to learn from them. Well, that's kind of also part of what we do, right? Yeah, and then just to remind you a little bit, right? This is again about the research. Yeah, so the idea is that the research is really something that supports your film. Right. I know that some people are very daunted by the word research and by research reports and having to hand these things in. But then again, if you ask any filmmaker that has made a film, whether it's a short film or a feature film, they all did research. Right. They all developed a visual identity. They all thought about their stories and about the context and about the stories that they wanted to tell, and they wanted to tell them well. So it's important to do so. And in that sense, it's practice-oriented research. Right, so it's not diving into the books. You can, of course, sometimes for certain subjects, you can dive into the books, but you might also interview someone or do a questionnaire or, right, find other ways to actually gather information. Which brings us to our lovely team. So who are we? Well, you know me already, and next to being the pathway leader, I'm also one of the theory tutors. Then we have 2 what we call process tutors. They really focus on the making of animation, which means that they're also both animators. Leon van Rooij, who is also director of Playgrounds Festival, which I think many of you will know if you're from the Netherlands. That's a very big festival about animation and visual culture in general. And we have Luc Vurs, who is also a process tutor and actually one of our old students. We're very happy to have him on board. He made a very successful graduation film a couple of years back, and he made a beautiful new film called Turmoil, which is not online yet, I think, but he's an amazing animator, and he has a very good critical eye. Other theory tutor is Sarah Luchthart, who will also help you think a bit more theoretically about your work. And then we have Henk van Alphen, our process tutor. Henk is more of our tech support, right? He's there mostly on the Thursdays, and he helps you with all sorts of technical questions that we cannot resolve at other moments in the week. Lastly, Agnes van Liemt, who I already mentioned a bit before, and Agnes teaches professional practice. And now I'm going to have a sip of my tea. Nancy's typing something, but I don't know whether it's... important. At least these little dots are moving about. You want to say something, Nancy?
No. I was already making some text for when it's my turn. So
Okay, very good. Okay. Yeah, and these are graduates from last year. Yeah, so we're an international community, right? And that means that what we aim for in the application process is about 50% non-Dutch students. And from the non-Dutch students, usually quite a few are also non-European, right? Have students from all over. This is also why we do everything in English. And for us, this is really important because not only is animation really an international field, boy, the Netherlands is a very small country. And in my experience, it is nearly impossible to produce any kind of animated film without co-producing with another country because there is simply not enough money in the Netherlands to really fund projects in that particular way. So certainly feature films, but also most short films are co-productions, often with Belgium or Luxembourg or France or Germany, or even further abroad. Which means that it is good to function in an international community. What I think is also very good is to learn to bridge gaps in culture, right? People will be from very different backgrounds, very different ideas about what they want to do, will have different knowledge. And it's actually very good to learn from each other and to teach each other and to help each other with that. And we're very happy that we have this international community on board every year. Yeah, we also collaborate with industry. So next to say, it's maybe good to say, sometimes people ask this, so what does a week look like, right? A week usually looks like this. On Monday and Tuesday, we will meet with you and we will talk you through your projects. And sometimes we will focus very specifically on certain elements, right? Certain topics, if that's really a thing that is a hot topic at that particular moment. Then on Wednesday, most weeks, not all weeks, but because you also need time to work on your animation, we might have a workshop, right? So for instance, tomorrow the students will have a workshop with Federica Durzo, who is incredibly good at pitching, and they will learn some pitching tricks from her. We will bring others in as well, right? People like Kanso Obolu, who's also one of our alumni, who's very good with Blender, or Pip Williamson, who's very good with After Effects. Or we'll bring in, for instance, Milo Kramer Eindhoven, Dirk van Dulmen, who are very good at scripting and storyboarding, and they will really help you with your storytelling. And we very much like bringing in our old alumni to bring them back and to teach you what they've learned once they've actually gotten into the industry. If we're lucky, we might also be able to bring some bigger names, which I'll get to in a sec, but I'm now forgetting that I was describing a week. Then on Thursday, you will have time to meet with Henk to really ask tech questions. That's really up to you. And sometimes Hank will also teach a class about a specific subject. And on Friday, you will do professional practice. We're not really a 9 to 5 studies, right? It doesn't work that way. It's really up to you what you need. Also, specifically workshops, etc. The group is different every year. The availability of certain people that can teach workshops is different every year because they all have a practice. So some years, some people might come. Other years, other people might come. We also listen to you. Right. So sometimes the group is really set towards the end of the year. Boy, we really need somebody to help us with sound design. Then we brought somebody in to help you with sound design. Right. Sometimes we ourselves felt, oh boy, you guys really need somebody to help you with scripting. Then we brought somebody in to help you with scripting a little bit earlier. Also in terms of technique, right? Some years there's a lot of people that want to do stop motion. Then we'll bring in somebody who's very good with stop motion and help you a bit with dragon frame and things like that. Right, so this will be very different every year, and it's to some extent some things always return, and some things are really also based on what you want and on availability. Right, 2 years ago I was lucky enough to be able to bring Tom Moore from Cartoon Saloon, who many of you will probably know. Yeah, this depended on him being in the Netherlands at that particular moment and having the time to actually talk a bit about the process at Cartoon Saloon. Last year, I'm not sure whether you would recognize him. Maybe you recognize the image that he's looking at. We had Michael Dudok de Wit, who is the director of The Red Turtle and Father and Daughter and a number of other short films. And he came over to also talk a little bit about his process specifically his creative process. I think that was very useful. In both cases, students could also show their work to them, right, and get feedback from Tom or Michael and get an idea of what they thought of their work and maybe get some input. This will highly depend on who's available. Maybe sometimes with Kaboom, I'm able to bring people in. At other moments, I'm not really able to do that. But the workshop are very like various, right? So sometimes we'll usually do a workshop about by frame animation. We'll do something with storytelling, something about producing. That's also a bit part of professional practice. We'll definitely do pitching workshops and character design workshops. But recently I had the good luck of having the man with the glasses top left over, who's Stephen Woloshin. He's from Canada, and he is very knowledgeable about working on actual film stock, 35 millimeter film, and students got a workshop in actually working on film directly, scratching in it and drawing on it, and then digitizing that, which is what you see bottom right. And then by the end of the day, you could actually see it. I think I posted it on my LinkedIn as well. You can find the film there that they produced. I think that's a very interesting way for one in a world where things are very digital to work in an analog way to actually work, get your hands dirty. This was very much a hands dirty workshop with bleach and paint and things like that, and also a way to actually open up your creativity a little bit. So sometimes students will also return that. Well, it depends a bit. Definitely, if I can bring Stephen again, I'll bring Stephen again. Yeah, we work with different partners, right? So like the iFilm Museum, for instance, Playgrounds we mentioned. We work with Toon Boom, which I guess many of you will know as animation software. We work with Submarine. We work with Kaboom Animation Festival because I'm working for Kaboom Animation Festival as well. And other partners as well, right? Just a little overview. And we also work with the Keep an Eye Foundation. This is a non-profit foundation in the Netherlands that supports the arts. And once a year, they hand out an animation talent award. That bag is exactly in front of the check. So it's check. So it says 6,000 euros, actually. This is something that we do annually. And what we do here is that in usually October or November, recent graduates from last year, they can pitch. The professional jury will pick one winner, and that winner will get an award of 6,000 euros to start working on a first film. Right, so it's kind of a start, and we're very lucky to work with the Keep an Eye Foundation to fund some of these things, and yeah, also some of the other things that we do during the year. Yeah, maybe good also to mention, of course, part of what we do is also is we want you to really have a voice. I think you really have a voice in the program, but you also can have a voice in what we call the Student Program Committee, the SPC, which has different students from different master's programs. And in that, you can discuss different things that are challenges and things like that that are there. And it's basically intended for you to also have some influence and to really flag things if things are maybe not going so well, or to say that things are going very well. And you will meet with the program coordinator, who's above all the masters, once a month, and some of the tutors, and talk about the master programs and how things are going. Having said that, I'm going to hand actually this presentation to Nancy to talk a bit about living in the Netherlands and specifically Den Bosch.
Yeah, well, for the students who are from abroad, of potential students or applicants, a little bit about Den Bosch. We're situated in the south of the Netherlands. It's quite a big city. It's an old city, which is very nice to visit. We see many visitors from other parts of the Netherlands, but also from outside of the Netherlands who visit Den Bosch because of its old buildings. It also has canals, and it's really very nice to be there. It's a very pleasant environment to be in. So it's in the south of the Netherlands, not far from the Belgian border. It's also, yeah, as I said, quite big, and there are a lot of villages surrounding Den Bosch, which means that you can also, when you're looking for housing in Den Bosch and you can't find a room in Den Bosch when you're admitted, you can also reach out for one of the other villages surrounding Den Bosch, because the Netherlands are quite small. To give you an idea, from the top from the Netherlands to the south of the Netherlands is a 3 hour drive, and then you're from the top to the south of the Netherlands. So it's quite small. So you can imagine that it's also the distances within the Netherlands are quite short. They're short distances. We have a lot of trains and buses, and most of us travel by bike. So if you live in one of the surrounding villages, you can easily come to our academy by bike. It won't take you very long to get there by bike. Den Bosch, as I said, if you can't find a room in Den Bosch, you can also choose for one of the other villages. And when you're admitted, I will send you a flyer with all information you will need about Den Bosch, its environment, where you can find housing and where to look at. And I think you will really like it. So what I did is I will put a link in the chat to a YouTube site, and you can see some images of Den Bosch, so you get an idea what Den Bosch looks like. So that's about Den Bosch. But if you have any questions about Den Bosch, about surroundings, about housing, I will put my email address in the chat once again, and don't hesitate to ask me any questions. Well, that's about it about Den Bosch, Maarten.
Yeah, I thought the next slide we can do a bit together, right? Because this
Yeah,
is about the application
yeah,
procedure, right? So what you need to do. Maybe you can pick up the first part and then I'll say a little bit about the whole procedure with talking to you and things like that.
yeah. I think most of you will probably know that you will have to register or enroll in StudyLink in order to get into our system and to enroll in our program. So the first thing you will do is go to www.studylink.nl. Then we will ask you to upload your admission assignments. Your admission assignments, you can see that's your CV, a personal statement, a research proposal, and your portfolio. At the same time, our student administration office from Avans will ask you for personal information. That is, they will ask you for a copy for your passport. They will ask you for a copy of your diploma and your grade list. And when you're from abroad, they will ask you for an IELTS test or a language test. And you will also have to upload these documents in another part of our system. For us at the masters, it's most important that we get the application documents, as say the assignments you will have to make. And there are 3 deadlines that you will have to take notice of. That is, the first deadline is the 1st of February, which is already in 2 or 3 weeks. At the 10th of February, you will have to have uploaded those 4 application documents in order to be judged, and we'll judge the documents and decide whether we will have an interview with you, because that's the second step. If you're not invited for an interview, we will let you know why. We will give you a reason, and you will get feedback on your documents as well. The second deadline is the 1st of May. This deadline is the last deadline for non-European students. That is, so European students and non-Europeans can apply until the 1st of May. And then there is the third deadline, which is the 1st of June, and that deadline is only for European citizens, for European students. The most important thing to know about these deadlines is it's not the deadline to register in StudyLink, but it's the deadline that you have to have uploaded the application documents in our system. So we will have to judge them at these days. So that's the most important thing. I will put this in the chat as well, so you will know. And if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to send me a message about this. It's
Yeah,
up
and
to
I was
you,
gonna
Maarten.
say, yeah, I was gonna say, so maybe it's good to say that if we invite you for an interview, this is an online interview, right? So you don't have to come to the Netherlands for this. And maybe you could say something about the different application documents right next to the personal information, which need diplomas and things like that. Yeah, we need a current CV, right, that shows what you've done in the past, what your education has been. We need a personal statement, which is a statement why you want to study with us, right? What will you do in this master's program? How will this master's program be a step in your career? We need a research proposal, which is a proposal in which you will tell us what you would like to look into during the research during the year, and how this ties into what you might want to make as a film. And we need a portfolio. Portfolio people very often ask the question, how should this be 100 pages or something like that? No, right. A portfolio should really give an idea of where you stand as an artist at this particular, or a maker at this particular moment. And it's better not to present too much work, but to present it well and to also contextualize it and tell us why you made it and how you made it and what you think is interesting about it, than just to send 200 images or links to 50 things on YouTube our way, because there's no way we can watch all of that, right? So make sure that you also convince us of your skills as an animator and or designer or illustrator through the portfolio. Yeah, maybe last thing to quickly mention, because Nancy, you said 1 May is the last deadline for non-EU students, right? And 1 June is still possible for EU students. The reason for that is that if you after the 1st of May, we cannot guarantee that you still get through the visa process. Right, it really takes a bit of time to get you through the visa process, so you can actually start in September. So that's why the deadline for non-EU is the 1st of May.
I've also put everything in the chat. So about the
Yeah.
procedure and about the research proposal and all kinds of things that you should need know about the process.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have any questions, Nancy's put the email address as well. There's masteradmissions@avans.nl, which is manned by Nancy, right? So you will get, and of course, if there's specific questions that are very much about the program, she will forward them to me, for instance, and I will try to answer them. Yeah, it's maybe good to know where we're located, right? So, and we're also online, right? And also on social media, so you can find us there as well. I think actually that's sort of what I wanted to say. So I'm kind of interested to hear what are their questions right now.